Okay, 46 and 47 quadratic formula. This is going to be helpful when you want to find x-intercepts or solve an equation, okay? So let's put an example up before I show you why you need it. Let's attempt a problem. So number 1 is 5x squared minus 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. And let's pretend that I ask you to find the x-intercepts, okay? So just like we did on Math Excel yesterday, I say find the x-intercepts of this equation. What would you start with if you want to find x-intercepts? You start by trying to factor, right? Okay, so I'm going to go like this, make our snowflake, because there's no greatest common factor. What's 5 times negative 5? Negative 25. What's our B number? Negative 2. And what's our A and our A? 5 and 5. There we go. All right. So now you need two numbers that multiply to negative 25 and add to negative 2.
Wait, what? Would that even work?
Yeah, does that even work? No. I'm glad you all are looking at me like she's crazy. You're right, it doesn't factor, does it?
Thank you.
Okay, so guess what? Factoring doesn't work. This will not get you an answer. You are stuck. So you have factoring doesn't work. Yeah, I did make you waste pencil. So here's the moral of the lesson so far. You cannot always factor quadratic equations. Not everything is factorable, okay? Well, if you can't solve it by factoring, then what do you have to do? You must use quadratic formula. That's the new part today. You must use quadratic formula. Quadratic formula always work. Factoring sometimes works. All right, I'm getting there right now. So you must use quadratic formula for this. What is the quadratic formula? Well, the quadratic formula is this big, long formula. So make some space on your paper. Huh? You could have learned it in Algebra 1.
No, I did learn it.
Okay. So it goes like this, to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel.
Oh, God.
Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, B squared minus 4AC, all divided by 2A.
No, that does not.
X equals negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Yeah.
Yes, nice!
It was like algebra.
Yeah, Algebra 1, you could have seen this. So this...
Your records, you're still
Yeah, I did. Going to be an internet sensation. Okay, so there is your formula. Make sure you can read it.
Can I pull up my Algebra 1?
Hold on. Hold on, I do want to see. Okay, so everybody got that nice and clear in their notebook?
No.
So once again, this one always, I'm going to write always works. The QF always works. Factoring does not always work. Well, is anyone saying to themselves right now, why did she teach us factoring if it doesn't always work? Okay, because it's a lot quicker. Exactly right. Wouldn't you guys rather factor than use this big long formula here? Probably, but let's show you why. All right, so here we go. You're back. Everybody see number 1 up there? So here's the problem. What I would suggest doing first is listing your A, your B, and your C. So let's list the A, the B, and the C. And remember, do not use dashes. Use like a colon or something so you don't accidentally put a negative. All right, what's your A, your B, and your C in this case?
A is 5.
5, negative 2, and negative 5. Good job. All right, so here we go. X equals opposite of B. So that's going to be opposite of negative 2, which is
2.
positive 2. Put a plus and minus. The square root of B squared. What do you got to remember when you're squaring something? To put it in what? Parentheses. If you don't do that, you'll get the wrong answer. So it's parentheses negative 2 squared. B squared minus 4, and then times A times C. So times 5 and times negative 5. Negative 4 times A times C. So negative 4 times 5 times negative 5. Then this whole thing is divided by 2A. So 2 times what? 5. If you want to do 2 times 5 in your head, that's better, and then you can just put a 10 there. So 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, now, this is why I told you all to get a yellow calculator, because you got to do this in steps. You got to evaluate in steps. So the first thing you want to type in is everything under the square root, but not the square root. So type in everything under the square root, but not the square root.
I'm doing a great job.
Where's your calculator?
Good
Over
job,
there.
Kylie. But I don't think anybody has.
Okay,
type in everything
under the square root, but not the square root.
Love you, Kylie.
I don't love you.
Why?
Because you rude.
Okay.
Okay, so we have parentheses, negative 2 quantity squared, minus 4 times 5 times negative 5. I get 104. If you don't have 104, then you need to see what you did wrong.
I totally got 104.
Okay,
Kylie,
all right,
why do you
good.
look like a blue dress?
Do you see why? Okay, so, here we go. X equals, we're going to put 2.
Okay, boomer.
Shh. Plus or minus the square root. Under the square root, we're putting what number? No. 104.
trying to file a complaint.
All divided by 10. Okay, now, do y'all see this plus minus part? Remember, if you're looking for x-intercepts, and this graph has a y-intercept of negative 5, I'm just like putting some things, obvious things I see. It opens up, right? So if you have a y-intercept of negative 5, we don't really know where the vertex is, but if you're going to open up, how many times are you going to hit the x-axis? Twice. So that's why you have this plus minus, so you can get 2 solutions, because you need to know where they cross the x-axis. So from here, we're going to make 2 branches. One of the branches is going to say, so I like to do this, so we're going to say 2 plus the square root of 104, all divided by 10. And the other branch is going to say 2 minus the square root of 104, all divided by 10. Okay? And now from here, this whole thing can go on your calculator. You're going to type in the top part.
Do you ever go back and watch your own videos to see if you catch anything people say?
No. You're going to hit the top part, and you're going to hit what? You have to do 2 plus the square root of 104. Hit enter. Yes. Then divide by 10. So 2 plus the square root of 104. Hit enter. Then divide by 10.
But hold on,
Oops,
let's
I did it
listen for a
wrong.
second. These Popeyes biscuits.
Come on. I have like this crazy root looking thing on the yellow calculators.
Square root.
Yeah, I got it.
Yellow calculators. If you have this answer, that is what we call the exact answer in radical form. Some of them on Math Excel, I picked out decimal. So to change this out of radical form, you hit this button above the enter. Hit that arrow button, and now it changes to a decimal. 1.219.
What did I do?
Well, I'll show it again.
Wait, which one did you do?
I did the first one.
The positive?
Yep. So I get, let me finish this and then I'll help you. 1.219, and let's pretend I only wanted the hundredths. What would that round to?
122.
Yes, that 9 makes that go up to a 2. So where does it cross the x-axis at? 1.22, and now we got to figure out this one. Remember, the sequence of typing this in is super important. So 2 minus the square root of 104, hit enter, then divide by 10.
We go back up.
So 2 minus the square root of 104, hit enter, then divide by 10, and then if you want decimal form, you hit the arrow button above the enter. This button right here. And we get negative .819. Okay, rounded to the nearest hundredth, that would say negative .82. All right, how many x-intercepts does this one have?
Dose.
2, good. Stop.